So good afternoon, everybody. First of all, really sorry that we're holding you because of this session away from your lunch, but just bear with us for a few more minutes. I I plan and I will really try this session to be as enthralling as possible, so that for some time you forget that we've taken away from lunch from you. So just to give a brief backdrop of what we'll be talking about. Well, in the name of evolving hiring practices, I feel the 21st century has pushed our world to the cusp of major tech upheaval, coupled with a raging pandemic, and has also rewired business methodologies. Basically, post COVID, there has been a sudden surge in talent crunch as well. There has been upheaval of concepts like career cushioning and great resignations. Now, when we talk about changing landscapes, specifically in hiring segment, wherein we say talent crunch is something that is happening as well and is something that's going to continue as well. But in the midst of this landscape, there are different methodologies as well as thought processes of HR leaders and experts who feel that in the midst of this upheaval of talent crunch, there are also coming in of different concepts and varied concepts and ways of hiring practices. Mr. Dheeraj, while opening this forum, I would really like you to take us through the new landscape of hiring that is exactly taking place post COVID, or do you feel it is something that is an extension of what was already happening?
Thank you so much. I think wonderful topic, and this is a topic I think everybody is expert at these days. From last 3 years, everybody is struggling to hire people, right? Not me. In all the industries, especially tech giants, tech industry. Me being a part of this industry, we also struggle a lot. And last 2 3 years, I think what has happened is that the people who are applying, the candidates we are targeting, they taught us how to hire now. Along with that, the another thing which is disturbing, or which is a little away from human touch, is evolving of technology. So I'll start with technology. November itself, there was a launch of chat gpt. That was a brainchild of Elon Musk. I'm sure few years back we thought that he's creating a human assistant. So that chat GPT is real now. It's just two months, but that has bypassed Google in terms of artificial intelligence. You ask a question that they'll give you an answer. You ask any questions. You ask that chat GPT that create a code, they'll create a code for you. You ask create a picture, they'll create a picture for you. So now organizations are coming forward to help screening the candidates, to get the background of students. What are they doing social media? So artificial intelligence, which was not real few years back, it is already there. So that is helping organization to hire talent. But then that can only help to select few people. Getting that person onboarded is again a Herculean task.
Right.
That is a big task these days. So now candidates or people who are applying, they are selecting organization, not we are not selecting them. It's a candidate driven market. Yesterday I was about to offer somebody, they said, I want to see your office first, then I will decide whether I'll come or not. That was one tactical thing. But now, earlier we were used to screen people. Now people are screening organization. Can they sustain for few years? What are their plans? What are the vision? So that has changed the complete arena of hiring. It is a market driven by candidates. We can select, we can use technology, they can help us. But end of the day, it is a candidate who is selecting the organization. So we have to be ready, keeping our organization on the toes, that we candidate can select us. So I think the need was same to hire a good people, but the method has evolved and it has changed a lot.
While I do understand there is a changing landscape and everybody would agree to it as well, do you think that we've come a long way from just screening prospective candidates on CVs, and now AI is actually an enabler when it comes to screening candidates? So how do you think we can actually judge the soft skill part?
Yeah, and that is another challenge. People don't want to come and show their face in the office. Even they are local, they want a virtual interview. And you cannot say no to them, right? Somebody sitting 5 kilometers from my office, they don't want to come. They said, okay, we can have a video round. But there you cannot evaluate them on human touch. People have a lot of IQs, but EQ, nobody's talking about EQ. And that is a
Exactly.
challenge today, that how do you judge people, their sustainability, their emotional quotient, their loyalty, what they expect from us as an organization. So this is
Loyalty is
a
exactly a very big factor that organizations are seeking today, because in times of crisis, the organizations really expect employees to stand by them.
absolutely the tenure we are talking about. When I was looking for a job 10, 15 years back, the mindset of the people was that I should work for 5, 7, 10 years in one organization, then I'll maybe switch. But now, if somebody completes 12 months, 14 months, they said, okay, we have given enough. Now it's the next move. What is next in this organization or a next organization?
Exactly.
So things have become difficult. There is no objective answers as if now. Everybody is struggling, and we are also one of them. I'm sure Yuvaraj and my colleague, they can throw a lot of lights. They've hired n number of people in last 2-3 years.
Sandeep sir, when it comes to you, when we hear that you have hired people across all segments in last 2-3 years, not specific to your organization, but do you think that the hirings that have been taking place is a sustainable hiring in terms of strategy? Because the layoffs are happening overnight.
So honestly, I don't understand the question, but let me. Take
No,
it
so
again.
I mean to ask is, if it would have been a sustainable or a strategic hiring, then overnight layoffs wouldn't be happening. So if
Oh,
overnight layoffs are happening, do you think that the cause is the bulk hirings that were done over the years?
Look, yeah, I mean, look, I haven't done that, but I'm assuming a lot of other companies may have done it. It is almost like when you're hungry and when you want to have food, then you gobble up a lot and then suddenly start puking because your body cannot take that much. I think somewhere we also created this whole impression about, and maybe right also, impression about that there is a war for talent and everything is going
Right.
downwards, southwards, and people have to just go out and start hiring a lot of people. So I think that also created an artificial hunger to hire people, and suddenly when you hire people, a lot of them, and the business is not growing the way it should have been, you have no other option but to kind of rationalize it a little bit. So those things may have happened, but I don't know. Maybe Yuvraj, you could talk about it because you're in a business which is much more kind of on the fly. I haven't seen that as a trend. I mean,
Okay.
it's not that in the last 2 years a lot of hiring has happened, a lot of layoffs have happened. In the same breath. I think it's a little exaggerated. Yeah.
Yuvraj sir, what's your take on the same?
So, I think as Sandeep is saying that, there are organizations will hire when they will need people. And the way candidates treat the organizations, in certain cases, startups have also started treating candidates as a
Right.
disposable commodity, right? So you hire them during the pandemic period. Many of the organizations started doing well because it was in favor of those business models to really
Right.
work very, very hard and generate their revenues. At that point of time, they hired people, and the moment market started settling down, and there are many companies, I'll not take the names, they realized that it's not sustainable model. You need to really get people out of the system. But the beauty and the important part is that these layoffs are not something which is a new thing happening, right? You look at layoffs of 200, 250 people over a population of around 2,000, 10,000 has started getting reported. It's not a new thing. It's only because there's so much of a reach of a social media, media print itself, that even 100 people are being moved out after the appraisal process becomes a news. Whereas in the huge organizations, in a year's time, there'll be many people who will get churned out, right? And that will never make a headline for that matter. Other thing is, it's not bad because people who are getting laid off are in the industry or in the organizations which are knowledge driven industries, right? So these guys are not going to be really unemployed for long. It's a question of they again changing their CV and they getting into a different organization rather than sticking around. So it doesn't create unemployment. It only changes the position of the place where people are working. So that's how it is operating. So I don't think it's a matter of huge concern. You are not retrenching people the way it used to happen in the industrial relations environment sort of a thing. So then not much of a concern. It's a sign of evolving economy. It's a sign of thriving economy with the opportunities available. People are moving jobs. Organizations are also being very, very practical on their P&L, and things are moving from that point of view. Yeah.
So, sure, sir.
Yeah, I think what's important is like, I think we should also start seeing, coming in from an HR guy, it doesn't look nice, if I say it as a commodity, but I think um, employees are commodities, so, and I think we need to start looking at them as a supply demand, this thing, so if there's a demand, there's always going to be supply. If there's going to be excess supply, there's going to be retrenchment, so I think it's the nature of a capitalist economy. That is how it works, and we should accept that.
Amit sir, my next question is to you. Do you think that in this evolving times, we are forgetting the aspect of soft skills to an extent, wherein we've just adapted that it cannot be screened in a tech process? And do you think we're ignoring the fact, because more and more HR experts are of the view that when they're hiring and when the employees are leaving, the one factor that they're not able to table is, and they make it a point that maybe we did not hire into a content wherein we could screen that what kind of soft skills the person has. So do you think that this very important aspect is being vanished when we are hiring via the tech way?
It's unmuted from my side.
Yeah, sir.
So-
Now we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. No, first of all, my apologies for not being in person, and it was just a bit of under weather, and with the daily climate, I thought better to kind of stay safe, currently. So apologies for that and for
No
joining
problem,
virtually.
sir.
The point you are making is very critical, and generally we say in organizations that you hire for aptitude, and you fire for attitude. Because many times when we are hiring people, we are too much looking into the technicalities of the role and the technical skills of the person rather than the larger softer aspects. And a lot of that has started to happen, especially in the areas of tech hiring, or when I say tech hiring means the virtual hiring, where the more premium is placed on the skills the person is bringing in on the technical side, rather than what the person is bringing in from a softer side, from a learning agility, from leadership, from the larger the values, behaviors, collaboration, all of that.
Right.
So I would say that this was something which got missed out in that middle, but it's coming back now. So most of the organizations, as I now see, are now equally focusing on the value based hiring or the behavioral based interviewing, which is becoming a new norm now, which started off at one point of time as a nice fad, but now it's become a reality. All progressive organizations which I have seen now, including us, when we look at the hiring, technical is only one part of it, and there are so many people who are not hired who are great technical minds, but when we realize that on the soft skill assessment people are not there, better to not hire, because then after getting them, when we try hard with all the training programs and all the capability development programs, but it just doesn't work. You need to still have some basic content to work on when you're looking at capability building on that. So the entire concept of a value based hiring, which is coming up now, is one of the key aspects which is critical. Now the problem here is of scale. Organizations which are hiring in reasonable numbers, 200, 300 in a year, one can still do that. But when you're hiring in thousands, and that's true for some of the large, service organizations, that becomes a challenge, and that is something is still a code to be cracked. People tend to rely on a lot of psychometrics around it, whether it's through SHL assessments or through other, there are enough companies today who are giving those kind of tools to organizations to go through that, or through gaming or through simulation, putting them into those exercises. But it is still something which needs to have a much more higher place than I would say, just the technical side of it. I was just overhearing the conversation from the previous panel, and somebody said that in one of the companies, even if you have the best of the minds, they will still look at the attitude over anything else, and that is the real make or break thing, according to me.
So hiring during profitable market and firing when markets are down, it does impact the society. Everyone would believe with that. Do you feel that organizations should look at larger picture as social responsibility and hire in a sustainable proportion? To you, Yuvraj.
What do you mean by that? In case the business needs people to be working with organizations for some point of time. Suppose you are constructing a house. When you are digging a foundation, you will definitely deploy more people. And if you want to build a house which is normally take 2.5 years, in 1 year you'll deploy more people. And then what will happen is, over a period of time, if people are not needed, they'll be really moved out and your numbers will come down.
Right.
Try to understand, the workforce today is not something which is starving for employment, at least the type of people who are getting really laid off, so to say, in that term, right? People who are they are moving jobs, and they have and we know that when people are coming to the organization, they are working 1.5, 2 years, as Dheeraj is also mentioning. Normal tenuity in tech and product world has become around 1.5 to 2 years. You don't even know when to promote people. Should you start promoting people after a quarter or 6 months or 9 months? How should you really look at the career growth? So I think the whole game has changed when it comes to talent and productivity, measurement of that, and how you are creating an impact. It's absolutely fine that if organization is scaling up, it has more number of people, and when it has reached to a scale, it needs to optimize its resources. There are some people who are moved out. There are some people who are also moving out to different organizations. We can call it as a layoff, but I would not say that these people are getting fired and they are on the streets. In 99% of the cases, these guys will get another job. Perhaps it will be better than that. When during COVID, many organizations, when they started talking to employees, and they said, okay, fine, now you're redundant, you need to move out because the business has come down. Believe you me, I also know people who said that rather than you asking me to resign, I'll be happy if you give me a letter which says that I'm being terminated because of no jobs available in the organization, because I consider that as no stigma. Because the fact is that there's a reason. I don't want to really get into creating stories about my not having a job. I'm okay to really take a letter which says that I'm redundant and I need to move to a different job. So I think that overall talent landscape, organizations' ways of working has changed. Look at from the other side. I have worked with Pepsi, I have worked with Asian Paints for 9 years. Sandeep has worked with many organizations wherein pride of being in an organization used to be very, very different. People used to really relish and wear it on their sleeves that they represent so-and-so organization. And I'm sure that those organizations are still there, and there are still certain set of people who believe in that. But I think that shift has happened wherein people are evolving. Candidates, as Dheeraj was saying, people are looking for an organization where they can really work. It's not organizations who are looking for them, candidates or the employees. It's at a very different level. So I think it has become transactional to a great extent, and both parties are creating value for each other. And there's no love loss and there's no remorse also in the process of really people either moving out or not, because it's a question of creating an impact. Yeah.
While you actually make sense into what you're saying and you're actually proving your point, but there are also a set of employees who are feeling apprehensive now moving on to next organization as well, that if the employer is expecting loyalty, okay, what about the loyalty that they're expecting from the employer? Because overnight they think that now that we have to cut costs, so then now we have to reduce the workforce. And now equally there is a pressure onto employee side as well, wherein they feel, what if I move to another organization and I fail again?
So see, it's a vicious cycle. Let me give you an example. And I'm not advocating that overnight layoffs should not happen. I'm not taking a position and stand here. Do you know that in last 1.5 years, offer dropouts had been to the tune of 70% in the organizations? You make an offer to 10 people, 7 people will not turn out, and most of these will not come and join within 3 to 6 days of the joining period. Imagine the amount of chaos it is creating in the industry.
It is, yeah.
When you have a great resignation, you have 30-40% people really moving out. Everybody has 4 or 5 jobs. And at the same point of time, you have 70%. So you're burning the candle from both sides. And overall system is, I'm saying that it's evolving. Relationships are becoming transactional. And it is to a great extent in light with the organization where you are working. In Make My Trip, I think that we have faced this. We are having these issues. But at the same time, it's important for the organizations to keep their head down, not get swayed by these, initial short-term blips or the troughs in the processes. Perhaps that's the way to sustain. In 2014, when I joined Make My Trip, new startups had started going to Silicon Valley. They started hiring people in $1 million, right?
Right.
People went to IIT Delhi's and they started giving salary which were absolutely astronomical, because at that point of time, money was there in the market. Organizations who wouldn't have really had matured and sustainable way of working, they would have also followed the race. In our case, it's don't worry, anything which goes up has to come down. You need to run the organization with a stable head and a sustainable practices. These things will happen for a period of time and things will come back in control. And that is what is happening. 6 months down the line, you will see things will improve. That's how it will be.
Yeah. Another thing which is very important, what Yuvaraj is saying, the mindset of organization will also change. As he's saying, there is no stigma if somebody is not working for 3 months, 6 months. As an organization, I also have no problem if somebody is not working from last 6 months. Initially, 5 years back, we used to check, oh, there is a gap in an employment.
Right.
Now nobody checks there is a gap. They welcome it because if you can join, come immediately, right? That's the most important thing, because we know there is an offer dropout of 70%. Somebody is not working, we have a very high chance that person can join tomorrow. And somebody who
We have stopped looking at how many jobs in 10 years. While at the heart of it, as a HR professional, you feel bad about it and you see that you are changing. Earlier, you used to look at tenurity. Now you say 10 years, the fellow has really changed 6 jobs or 5 jobs. But you have stories backed up for all those changes. Perhaps you are still open to listen to. So a bit of change is happening and we should be cognizant of it. In fact, in terms of evolving hiring practices, what you're saying, I keep telling people at the campus, day zero differentiation happens. Right? From the day you enter the campus and you are passing out, and I'm sure that all the students will know here, day zero, certain companies will come and pay a salary which will be at least 2x more than what it will come on 4 days. Over a period, this word is very, very, difficult. I think it's very important to really realize the reality and figure out what you are good at, look at the right job, keep your head down and work for a longer period in the organization. If you feel that you are not learning, perhaps move out and do something else. But this is for the 10%, 20% of the top students, right? And it's important for people to build profiles like that. That's how it will be. Pay for person is the way it is happening. When we go and hire, few years back, we used to say, okay, fine, I am Ahmedabad 2015 batch or 2005 batch. I think I need to put a fellow in parity with people who are there in the system at the same level. Now it's no more. We are looking at people who will bring value and will pay people perhaps double than what the similar batch profile person will be in the organization, because that's the pay for person. So the whole ecosystem is changing, process of hiring is changing, compare ratio, all these Mercer surveys and all are, I should not say Mercer survey, but I'm saying that all the surveys on the compensation needs to be looked at far deeper, that are they really making any sense to us?
Actually, they should be laying in more emphasis on facts as well. Amit sir, if you would like to take key takeaways from you from this session, what would that be?
Key takeaways from this session. That's pretty interesting.
Exactly, because if we have to sum it up, if we have to jot down few pointers, and in the name of evolving practices, if we need to make out new pointers that, these are the things or these are the new aspects that we'll have to lay emphasis on. So what would that be?
So from a hiring practices standpoint, I think first of all, I just mentioned the earlier one. We need to have people who have the right attitude and the learning agility. I think those are the two critical things we all look at while hiring, and people who can work collaboratively. See, one of the things which happens is that in institutions, especially I'm looking at since it's a management education is one of the key backdrops in which this is happening. We are all learned, trained, or geared up to be individually brilliant. In the class you need to top, in the projects you need to top. We really don't teach collaboration much. And that becomes one of the key concerning factors when people start coming to the organization. So one of the key aspects when you look at it on the softer skill side is agility and ability to collaborate, work with others rather than work individually. That's one big piece which I would say.
Basically, not
The
work in
second,
silos is what you're saying.
exactly. The second piece which is also changing is also the inclusion of a different kind of workforce. It's not just happening now around women, which was generally talked about, the gender diversity about hiring. But now organizations are making conscious efforts to hire people from LGBTQ community, people who are from who have different abilities. All of that, that's becoming another big talent pool which we are looking at organizations, and those things are fundamentally changing over there. And the final piece which I would say is that when we look at the hiring practices all across, I would have a bit of a disagreement with some of the panel members here, in terms of the hire and fire approach, because generally when we look at the long-term engagement of the people, I don't think so that really works. If you really make an employment a very very transactional activity between an employer and an employee, then we really lose that additional effort which that employee is going to make. Then everything is about you pay me this much, I'm paying you for 5 hours or 8 hours that I'm working, and then it's gone. If we are simply making it that, I don't think so. With the organizations, that will be able to really leverage the full potential of the employee. So if you are really have to really look at the larger employer-employee relationship, it has to go much beyond a transactional piece of I pay you and you are delivering. We need to get into a zone where somebody is making that additional effort, additional discretionary effort, as we say, towards the larger purpose of the organization, and the organization also has to equally reward and appreciate. That's how I would say that.
Thank you so much, Amit sir. Sandeep sir, do you have anything to add to it?
Look, I think it's an interesting debate, discussion, and especially for the kids who are sitting here, which is kind of getting into the professional world. This may be my own view and opinion, may not be DCM Shriram's view, because I think DCM Shriram believes in kind of creating an institution and a lot of connect with people. But my own view is, see, if you're looking at permanent jobs for years and not be under the threat of being fired or retrenched in case if there is no job, तो आप बनारस चले जाइए, क्योंकि professional world में तो होगा नहीं. So I think go and take some other sabbatical somewhere. If you are living in a capitalist world, you got to work within the realms of capitalism. That is how life is. Companies make money, they'll pay you salary. You produce, companies make money. So it's like a circle. Let's not fool ourselves. There's no place for PSUs. I mean, I'm not for a minute also saying PSUs are not good, but that's how it is. Yeah.
In fact, just on one hand, we talk about moonlighting, right? On the other hand, we talk about gig working starting supported by labor code. On third hand, we also look at offer dropouts. And then we also talk about loyalty, strategic hiring, sustainable practices. I would urge some of the professors who are there to really work on a research paper which should say that how to build a career in the current changing environment, and see it from the lens of 10 years back, that 10 years down the line, how the student should really build a career in this prevailing situation. That's how it will really work.
There should be actually some study onto it, wherein students can also look up to it and refer to it, and also bring in this concept of upskilling, because that's actually the need of the hour. And would really like to add that in all the research papers and the HR expert columns that we've also read, upskilling is actually the new term or the new gig when it comes to hiring, because organizations are looking at that exceptional skill set that which will fill in the gap of 2 or 3 people that they've fired from their respective organizations for each segment. Anything to add to it?
The only thing which is this new word called upskilling. Earlier it was learning and development.
Right.
Now it is upskilling. Earlier the learning and development was mostly for a junior techies people, but with the help of this upskilling, you can push senior leaders as well to, they can learn new things as well. But this is a good concept, and I'll not take much of the time. I know we are holding you guys lunch, so thank you. Yeah.
But then thank you so much for being an exceptional audience. Thank you so much.